2006 was one of the most fascinating years in gaming. While we were still waiting for the release of the Nintendo Wii and the PS3, Xbox 360 had a whole year head start on the competition.
So let's get nostalgic and take a closer look at some of those Xbox 360 games that were released in 2006.
So just like last time, we're going to showcase the Xbox 360 exclusives that came out in the year 2006. And if you haven't checked out the first video, we definitely recommend that you do that as well. Otherwise, you probably missed a lot of these, so let's look at the ones you forgot to play. And the first one, this was a lot of people's favorite at the start of the 360's life. And that was, of course...
Viva Piñata.
We're singing already, okay. Well,
I can't see this title and not sing the song. I'm sorry.
That's kind of the opening intro, right? Like the menu is like a Viva Piñata.
Yeah, I can see the commercial for this one still.
Yeah. So this is a garden sim with piñatas, basically. And it was supposed to be just a chill game, right? You were supposed to just attract or build a garden and attract other piñatas. And they would essentially mate, become friends, some become enemies, and on the surface it kind of looks like a kid's game, but I think the system underneath this was pretty complex when you think about it. Just the fact that you had to breed these piñatas and make sure that they were happy in your garden, and of course, like I said, attract from the outside, while still dealing with some jerks that stop by once in a while, right? And there was one guy, I can't remember his name now, but he would stop by once in a while and you just kind of had to fend him off a little bit. But like I said, I think people were really happy with this game early on, and playing something like this on the 360, that was, of course, made by Rare as well.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people were looking forward to seeing what they might make for the Xbox 360. I did get this game pretty soon after it came out. I hate to say it, I was a little bit disappointed by this one because it wasn't exactly what I was expecting. I agree with you. I think it comes across like a kid's game. Matter of fact, inside here is something I haven't seen in any of the other 360 games that we've opened, and that is a child safety online guide. So this is a parent's guide to safety, 6 steps to online child safety.
Yeah. I mean, it did have Xbox Live support, so people did play this online.
Exactly. So, I mean, this makes sense, and I get why it was in here, because I think this was supposed to be somewhat, intended towards children, but I found it to be a little bit more challenging than maybe I was expecting.
Yeah.
And I mean, I remember, like the enemy piñatas coming in, or that one weird guy, I don't know, he was like a doctor or something like that. And you're trying to feed these piñatas, you're trying to attract new piñatas, you're trying to make sure they breed together to make baby piñata. You got enemy piñatas coming in. And as your garden kept getting bigger, it was harder and harder to kind of manage that. You would get like a little indicator telling you like, hey, there's something bad going on, but you'd have to go find that thing, get your shovel out, smack them until candy burst out of them, which then the other piñatas would go and eat. I mean, it was this is a weird game. I
do think this is a strange game as well, but I just remember the whole mating ritual while you had to play little mini games and stuff.
Oh, that's right. You do. Yep. You play those little weird mini games to get them to mate properly.
I guess so. Higher success rate or whatever. Yeah. But they had some like rare achievements in there too. And I remember there was, they had to utilize, it was either this or the next Viva Piñata, but the Vision Cam was something that...
I think that was the second Viva Piñata that utilized that.
I do think you can use, it was this and like a Rainbow Six or something like that. It was something bizarre.
2 weird ones, yeah.
That you had to use the Vision Cam for some achievements, and thankfully you didn't have to capture your face like you did in Rainbow Six. But it is a fascinating game, though. That's why we're doing these episodes about the exclusives in 2006, because this would actually make it into a lot of people's top 10 exclusives list on the Xbox 360. So it's kind of like one of those, it's very well known, but some people can also consider this a little bit of a hidden gem as well. It's one of those weird ones. But
and it never did get put onto any other consoles too.
Nope, this is
it.
Xbox exclusive. Yeah. So, and they haven't talked about bringing this back from the 360, a remaster or anything like that, but they did make 3 games actually, and they had like a separate edition as well that we don't have in our collection. Maybe we can put it up on the screen or something. But it had like a weird outer casing on it, and it had the game disc in there and some probably the same manual and stuff like that, but it had that weird shape and the plastic.
For some reason, that's the one that we mostly see in stores is the weird plastic casing. And it's really difficult to find just this like standard edition.
Yeah,
so.
It took us a while to find the standard one, but it may have been that this one came with a separate edition or came with a console. I'm not quite sure, but I'm glad we have this one. The other one is cool, but it just doesn't fit in the game shelf. So that's why we never picked it up.
I think either way, though, this is a definite must-have in your Xbox 360 collection. And if you haven't played this before, I do recommend it because it's still one of the more unique games that we have for the 360.
The next game in our stack, I still firmly believe that I don't give this game enough credit for its time. But I can imagine this being a pretty cool shooter back in the day.
And that is Prey.
And Prey is a first-person sci-fi shooter where you play as a Cherokee mechanic named Tommy who gets abducted by aliens at the start of the game. And you're probably seeing the opening intro to this game everywhere. You start out in a bar, basically playing some mini games in the bar, and then you suddenly get abducted by aliens. And what I liked about this was the kind of play with the portals, and you had like gravity shifting environments, so you could actually start shooting enemies upside down, and you can just go into different areas through these portals. And there was like, what I think set it apart was a really cool mechanic. Like when you died, you went into this kind of spirit world where you were shooting at these creatures that were flying, and you would use your bow and arrow to regain health or like the spirit energy. Or whatever it was called. So it was like a really cool mechanic. And the more I go back to this and also watch gameplay, because I have 100% completed this game, but it's been many years now. On the surface, it may look like kind of the Duke Nukem of the 90s in a sense, or like early 2000s even. Although Duke Nukem took forever to come out, I guess. Literally forever. So if you are familiar with those kind of shooters, you would definitely like Prey. And not only that, obviously, if you know the newer Prey game that came out in 2017, that has nothing to do with this other than the same name. Obviously, it's released by Bethesda, and then this is 2K. But it was kind of supposed to be a sequel to this game, but it never happened. So this stands on its own as a very unique sci-fi shooter to this day. And like I said in the start here, like I don't think I give this game enough credit for, like, I think this is actually a very good shooter, and I'll have to go back and replay this one because I think I would probably like it a lot more than playing it around the time where I played Call of Duty and Battlefield. And then this one felt a little bit inferior to those in terms of first-person shooters. But in terms of uniqueness and that the abilities you had in the actual game, this was a pretty awesome shooter in my opinion. So this game I would kind of put in the same category as one of the games that we talked about in the first video. It's one of those that no matter who you talk to about this time period and this game, people get incredibly excited, and absolutely this is their favorite.
That is Saints Row.
So as we probably know at the time, it was trying to be a competitor to Grand Theft Auto. It obviously drew a lot of inspiration from the GTA games. And as we know later on, when it got to like the Saints Row 3 and 4, it kind of tried to take itself out of that conversation by being a competitor to GTA. But at the time, this was obviously a very urban, open world sandbox game, third-person shooter. You can do anything from like customization and vehicles. You could do side missions. This was a really fun open world game. And they hadn't quite done co-op yet in the campaign, but you had some co-op missions on the side that you could do. And which I remember I almost said very fondly, but they were not very fond missions to play. They were not very fun missions to play, I should say. But this was still like that early exclusive on the 360 that really set it apart as well, because I don't think anyone really expected something like this to just be on the Xbox 360. And that's why a lot of people stayed committed to the series as well, and stayed committed to the Xbox 360, because they were just essentially waiting for the next Saints Row. Although Saints Row 2 obviously came out on the PS3 as well. But I can almost guarantee you that more people people decided to play it on the 360 because of that history with this game. And, just like Fear in the first video when I talked about this is a series and this is a game that is very heavily linked to the Xbox. And I still appreciate the older games, Saints Row 1 and 2. Like I said, very urban. They're not as silly and has all these superpowers and crazy weapons and stuff. So if you are a fan of like the early Grand Theft Auto games from like OG Xbox times, then this is a really good time. This is going to be very similar gameplay to that. So as tradition has it, we are including the Japanese releases here too. And again, you may have heard about this game a couple of years ago when everyone was talking about the Xbox 360.
That is Tenchu Senran, or known as Tenchu Z in the US.
That's exactly right. And this game came out in Japan first under a slightly different name, but it's, like you said, it's Tenchu Z. And this was published by From Software, which we have now seen that they were very closely working with Xbox at this time. So they enlisted a very good company to make some of their games, some of their exclusives, and also publish some of their games in Japan. So this is a pretty cool a stealth game, as you probably know from, I do believe OG Xbox had some Tenchu games, maybe one, and I definitely know PS2, maybe PS1. So obviously From Software goes way back with the PlayStation era. But then during this generation, then Xbox snapped up some From Software talent and managed to put out some good games. And so this is pretty much like a traditional stealth game, I would say, in terms of you need to have a lot of patience, of course, and get away with the silent assassins. And this has been at the top of my list to play for such a long time, and way before anyone really talked about this game, because I love stealth games. And as you probably had gathered from the other videos, I also like collecting the different achievement stacks in a sense, and this was one of the first ones I got, but it was actually incredibly difficult to find a good copy of this. And I remember when we went to Japan, I looked for this everywhere, and it's the number one game that has the most sun-bleached spine. For some reason, this is like sun-bleached to hell and back. And there has like this little sticker here.
I don't know what that is. Yeah.
So there's like a different version of this too that doesn't have this little sticker. So I don't know if that's like more rare to find, but this was one at least that had a little bit better spine on this one. It's a little bit faded, but
barely can notice it, though.
That's the little quirks of the collecting that comes out, right? You just remember that, that's the copy you looked for a long time. But absolutely a game that I want to dive into because of that stealth mechanic, of course, and then just being an early Xbox 360 game that came out in Japan first. They pushed this one there, and then I believe like a year or so later it came out everywhere else. But it's cool to have this early one too. But again, kind of similar to Bullet Witch as well, like you would have to have a Japanese 360 to play this particular copy. So choice is really yours if you want to get something like this as a collectible and then still get the global version to play the game, of course. But this is a fantastic one to have, and can't wait to dive into this one. We have I almost said it was like a misleading type of game here, but it is kind of a unique combo here that I don't see very often. At least I don't play these types of games very often.
Okay, that is The Outfit.
And this is sort of like a third-person shooter strategy game. So at first glance, I thought this was just going to be one of those pure third-person military shooters, and that's why I picked this game up. And obviously, since this is such a early game, I'm sure a lot of people check this out, but it's just not a game I heard a lot about until I don't think it was until it became backwards compatible several years ago, of course. But it was a game that I absolutely had to pick up because this is a very cheap one too. I don't think this has ever been an expensive game. I'm getting distracted now because you were pointing out like this thing on the inside here. So I guess we need to talk about some of the physical stuff too.
I mean, okay, first off, this is like Hardy cardboard. Okay.
Hardy? Oh, I haven't even redeemed the code.
No, I know. It has one of those cool like little tear-off ones, Like,
I hope it's still valid because I don't think that company is still in business. But the code... No, actually, no, never mind. I don't think I can redeem this because the store shut down. So
and it says download will be available March 14th and April 30th, 2006. So just 2 dates, not in between the 2 dates.
I guess so. But I mean, the good thing about a lot of these codes, they didn't actually expire, but it was one of those where obviously now you can't redeem this. I don't even think I can redeem this through the backwards compatible store, so to speak. But yeah, that's a bit unfortunate. But, I'm sure it's not the last game I have an unused code in. But so, like I said, this is kind of like a third-person shooter with some strategy elements where you can call in your troops and your battalion, your reinforcements. So it's sort of like, I would say, if you play like Command and Conquer in some ways, it's sort of like that, but it's more of a third-person shooter, of course. So I've played a little bit of this one, but not enough for me to like do a full review of this game. But I think it has some multiplayer and then just a story campaign. But otherwise, it's just a very early game that I haven't really dived into. But we would love to hear from you guys. If you've ever played the outfit, let us know in the comments what you thought about this game. Is it a cool game? Would you recommend it? Because right now I don't know, but I'm sure I'll get around to it someday. I've been very excited to talk about this particular version here because we don't actually have the global or the North American version of this game. And we can talk about that in a little bit, but here's what we have.
We have Shutoku Battle X.
I'm going to give you guys a few seconds to guess which game this is, because I would never know unless I knew, based on achievements and stacking and that kind of stuff, I would never know what this is. So this is Import Tuner Challenge, the Japanese version of the game. And this was quite an expensive game, actually, that we bought in Japan. I don't remember, but it was in the high 70s, 80s, I think, in terms of dollars. And very hard to find as well. So it's not like a very common game. Similar to the global one, I would say. Like I feel like every time we see this one, it's in poor condition and it's too expensive for my liking, so I just never picked it up. But it's one game that I've always wanted to add to the collection. And the funny thing is, they did come out in the same year. So Import Tuna Challenge came out in Japan first, and then it came out over here later in the year. But this is obviously a simulation racer, and I think a lot of people like this one, but I've also heard that it's a little bit slow. But, I can't really make an assessment on this because I haven't played too much of this. Because naturally, I would have to play this version right here, which I don't believe is backwards compatible even. So it's one of those games where you would have to have a Japanese 360. But it's really cool to have this one. I almost think that this version looks way cooler than the other one, because I think the Ubisoft published one is just a car. But this one looks like proper street racing type of cover on the game. So yeah, Shutoku Battle X. So if you're a collector, achievement hunter, this is the one you'll be looking for, basically. And it's one of those that it's a little bit more expensive for sure, but I'm thrilled we have this one. But the hunt continues for the North American version of Import Tuna Challenge. But again, let us know if you played this one. Does this stack up with something like Need for Speed, Forza, Project Gotham Racing? I would love to know, because I do like these early 360 drivers, simulation drivers, I should say. And I think this exclusive caught people's attention early on, and I've always been fascinated by this one, and not something I've actually played yet, but this one looks really cool.
Yeah, I like this one quite a bit. 99 Nights. This one was one that I did play early on the 360. I was a Dynasty Warriors fan back on the PS2. And to me, this was actually like a prettier, like a little bit more of a beautiful aesthetics Dynasty Warrior game. It's flashier, had a lot better graphics as well. So I thought this one was a really great release for the 360.
And then, like you said, like Dynasty Warriors, this is like large-scale combat, right? With hack and slash, that it's all about the sheer number of enemies on screen. And I think a lot of people did like this game. And, of course, it had a sequel a few years later as well. But this one, for some reason, became, for us at least, a little bit harder to find, especially in good condition, because it's one of those early games, right? But I've always been, like I said, fascinated by this game. And although it's maybe not my style of game, I feel like I should give this one a try because of that exclusive nature of this game on the Xbox 360. And it sounds like you really enjoyed this one too.
Yeah, no, I definitely had a lot of fun with this game, and I didn't get as much into the second one, so that's actually one that I would like to go back and try.
You may know this next one, probably not this version of the game though, because there's a funny little story with this one, but let's see her.
All right, we're bringing out Onechanbara Vortex.
So this is the Japanese release of Onechanbara Bikini Samurai Squad, which this one came out in 2006, obviously, because that's what we're doing in this episode, showcasing Xbox games from 2006. And the funny story about this one is that it didn't come out in North America until 2009. So I'm just imagining what the Japanese game devs, publishers, gamers, they're just like, yeah, let's, they were checking in with them, like, yeah, how much more time do you need? Like, are you testing this game out? Do you like this game? They're like, yeah, we're just going to need another year on this. And then the next year they do the same. And then it's like, yeah, are we ready to release it to the world now? They're like, yeah, we've had 3 solid years with this game now, and we can share with the rest of the world. So this is kind of like, I would put this in the same category as something like Dead or Alive Extreme, right? This is all about bikini babes slaying zombies with samurai swords and stuff, and this is a ridiculous game too.
Somebody had a genius idea. They presented that, bikini babes taking on zombies, and they bought on it. You know?
I guess so. I mean, we've seen some different variants on other consoles, right? We bought a Wii version of this game, or maybe it was a sequel of some sort. And obviously PS4 has one. So this is kind of like Bayonetta. It's like all over the place with the releases here. But I'm still bummed because when GameStop was doing like a blowout sale, right, as the PS4 and the Xbox One came out, they were just kind of trying to get rid of their Xbox 360 stock. And I saw this game, not this one, but the North American one, for $5, and I skipped on it. That one and Death Smiles. And I was just like, what was I thinking? And we still don't have it in our collection. So it goes to show how difficult that one was to find. So now it came out in Japan first in 2006, and it probably had limited print run in 2009. But it is a separate achievement list, and I do think that this entire game is in Japanese as well. And then later on, they actually had another Onechanbara game as well that I'm sure we can cover in a different episode. But I would love to talk more about these games, but they are ridiculous, but they're pretty fun too, I would say. And it's not the best games in the world, but I would still get this in the collection and give these games a try.
Hey, you can't go wrong with slaying zombies.
As a bikini babe. I can't tell you how long it took us to find this particular one, but you've been telling me that you thought I was looking for a totally different game when we finally found this. And I almost accidentally sold this one, actually, not realizing this was an exclusive and an early title. So I'm glad I didn't. Okay,
that is Over G Fighters. And I kept getting this game confused with a hamster game with a G-Force.
It was G-Force.
I just knew we were looking for a G game. I didn't know which.
Which, to be fair, it took a while to find G-Force as well. But I don't know which one is the better game. So I haven't played either one. But this is according to what I've at least researched on this game, this is a hardcore flight sim, which is totally not my style of game at all. We did a video, I think last year, where we got rid of a lot of 360 games, and majority of that was flight sim games. And it's not that I have anything against flyers or whatever you would call this, flight sim games, but I just prefer to just play them in other games. If I play a Battlefield game, or even something like Grand Theft Auto, then you get a lot of that anyway. So I just have never been into the flight sim games, if that's even the right category to put this in, because I understand there's combat in this too. Of course, it's not like Microsoft Flight Simulator, flying around the world and looking at stuff, but it's a fighter jet game, and it's an early one, so I knew because of that we had to add it to the collection. But for me, it's just one of those things that you just have in your collection. I probably don't have too many plans to play this one, but again, that's why we keep asking you guys, if you played these games, let us know in the comments what you thought about Over G Fighters, because like you said, you might also mistake this for G-Force, which is the Disney hamster game. So don't make that mistake. So I'm not sure what I was thinking here at 2 in a row here, where I know very little about these games. I know the publisher though, so we can start with that.
All right, we've got Star Trek Legacy.
And this is, oddly enough, published by Bethesda. early title, of course, as we have explained here. But this is, Star Trek game. So this is more of a real-time strategy space simulator. So we're simming it all the way around here. But you control other ships and you go into tactical battle in space in Star Trek fashion, in Star Trek universe. So from what I understand here too, like it's more Star Trek fan service more so than a very deep combat experience. But I'm sure for the biggest Star Trek fans out there, this was probably a fun time. But it is one I have tried a little bit though. Like it was during the time where I was playing or testing out some games. And I did play this one a little bit, but I can naturally tell that if it wasn't for Bethesda, I probably wouldn't even know about this game. But it was one of those weird ones where I had to get all of like the Star Trek games and all of the Bethesda published games as well on the 360. So I think for that reason, added it to the collection. But I remember at some point, this was actually a very hard one to find, and it kind of makes sense now later on since it is such an early title. I don't think I realized it was from 2006, but it goes to show again that Bethesda was publishing some interesting games throughout the 360 era as well, and this was definitely one of them. And it's like I said, a space real-time strategy game that we may or may not try someday, but at least it's a really cool one to have in the collection, without a doubt.
It's definitely for Star Trek fans because I can see here on the back it says it has the voices of all 5 captains in it. So I can see how that would be pretty cool if you've been following along with that like long-standing series, I don't know if they mean actual voice actors. I'm like curious about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's still pretty cool. So yeah, if you don't have this one in your collection, definitely recommend that you look for this one because it took us a little bit to find this one, especially in good shape and everything.
Yeah, the manual on this is perfect.
I knew that this was a game that I absolutely had to find when we were in Japan because this was a Japan exclusive Xbox 360 game, as you will probably guess or find out soon.
We have LoveFootball.
Which I do love football. So you might think I call it soccer, but I do call it football. And this was obviously aimed at the Japanese football fans, soccer fans over there. And this was nowhere near like a FIFA style game, but it was an exclusive. And for those reasons that I just had to go hunting for this one. And I can't really say that I saw a whole lot of this one over there, but it was very cheap. I don't think we paid more than like $4 or $5 for this game. And it is in pretty good condition. And you said that the manual is very heavy.
Yeah, this is a really beefy manual, that's for sure. So.
Explain the rules of football, yeah.
Yeah, they're going to try to explain the entire... Oh, because it has all these different modes, too. You got, like, story modes and match mode. So you got phone numbers you can call on the back.
That's always important when you do this, yeah. So, but, it's soccer simulation, right? So it probably was trying to cater to more the Japanese leagues, probably the Japanese national team. And I think around this time too, I think the Japanese national team was actually pretty good as well. And you were coming off of the World Cup, I think in Korea and then in Japan, I believe in 2002. So this was a soccer game by Namco, not even Bandai Namco at that point, but it was just Namco. And it's just a game that exists. I don't think it's probably any better than Pro Evolution Soccer at the time or even FIFA itself. But, it's one of those weird ones that, if you come across this one or if you are a football fan, just add this to your collection. And naturally, you would have to have a Japanese 360 to play this one. But it's a cool kind of, early Japanese exclusive that didn't come out anywhere else. So, it's a bit of a collectible, and I'd be surprised if this is a very expensive game as well. So similar to the last game that we talked about, this was another one I just sought out in Japan. Like I knew I had to find this one. And I do believe we found it at kind of like the same shopping trip at Surugaya, which we love Surugaya. But that game is...
Oh man, this one's awesome. It's Wrestle Kingdom.
This has the best cover. Yeah, I just knew...
This is the best cover.
Yeah, and I had to put my phone up and make sure this was the right one. And I have sort of a funny story to tell about this one too, because naturally, before we make the videos, I have to do some research, and especially if I haven't played the games, then I do a little bit of research online and just try to find some information. And I had a hard time finding it because obviously I know from even going on True Achievements, that's kind of what gives me the idea of what this game is and the achievements and that kind of stuff. But I had asked for a little bit more information, and so I went to ChatGPT and I asked, like, yeah, can you give me some info on Wrestle Kingdom, which was a Xbox 360 exclusive in Japan, never came out over here. And then I naturally got the response of like, this game doesn't exist. And I'm just like, what do you mean? I'm holding the game right now. So what are you talking about? No, it only existed on the PS2. And I was like, are you sure there's no other variant? Or like, I'm holding the game. And it kept refusing to give me any information. So let that be a lesson, I guess. If you can't find what you're looking for, don't trust ChatGPT blindly, because I was literally holding this game, but I was told that this only exists on the PS2. So in any case, so this is like a realistic Japanese wrestle game. So it's supposed to be like a New Japan Pro Wrestling game, and I know absolutely nothing about this, but I love what this is about, and I love the story, and I love the case of this game, and I love having it in the collection. And who knows if I'll ever play it someday, but this is a very funny exclusive on the Xbox 360. So in case you didn't know, Wrestle Kingdom exists on the Xbox 360 as well.
Exactly. So you guys can't find this one anywhere else. We have the only copy.
I have to say, this is probably one of the weirdest ones that when I saw the name of this one, I couldn't believe it because, again, I wasn't around when this came out, but this is definitely a fun one.
Yeah, there we go. It's the bizarre Rockstar Games present table tennis. And this was a very unusual release at the time. I mean, we pretty much only knew Rockstar as GTA, and then they came out with this table tennis game.
Well, very violent games at that point, right?
Yeah.
So not just GTA, but you also had Manhunt and Bully and
State of Emergency?
State of Emergency. And then I think Red Dead Revolver probably too. And then they're like, let's do this serious table tennis simulation, which I just realized like there's a lot of simulation games in this episode, which we learned from doing a poll. Our viewers don't like simulation games apparently. So we got to be careful here. More shooters. Let's get more shooters.
Hey, we've got some healthy shooters in here and some simulation.
We have some shooters, yeah.
Okay, but now we're on to table tennis.
So yeah, I would probably never pick this up unless I saw that it was like Rockstar. Like this was just too intriguing not to pick up. And again, being one of those early titles, it took me a while. And I love this too about the early ones that had the number 1, because it kind of signaled or signified how many discs you had there. So you would have 1, 2, 3, 4. So this one you can tell it has 1, yeah.
Well, that's good because it's just table tennis.
Yep. And then we have a little registration card apparently too.
Yeah, you can place your first class stamp here and register your game.
It's just an iconic manual too, because I feel like I know this man that is playing table tennis here.
Yeah, you have all your characters.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. But since this was an early game, yeah, it took us a while to find like a good copy of this one, because I feel like this was very very worn out for whatever reason. So yeah, it took us a little bit, but I'm glad that we finally got this one. And it does have like online multiplayer and stuff, so maybe we can try this on different Xboxes. We can play this on Series X as well. It looks great on the Series X. And we'll do some online table tennis, Rockstar table tennis. But they had all these serious games, all these violent games, and suddenly they're doing this. You're just like, this is kind of a weird full retail release, but somehow it worked. And I think people like this game though, so it's very serious. Yeah, if you're a serious table tennis person, then you probably love this one. And I used to love playing table tennis growing up, so this is probably right up my alley, to be honest. Well, we're sort of saving the best for last, although this is not the last game, but we're almost there. But we had to put this one towards the end, I feel.
That is The Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. This was a big deal when this came out, that's for sure. I mean, Morrowind was a huge success, I would say. Also surprised many RPG gamers as being such a large open world game that was just, at the time, those graphics were very impressive. Although when we go back and play Morrowind, not so much. However, Oblivion, at least for me, it holds a special place in my heart. I felt like this was a just a magical world that I really loved to explore. I also really loved the DLC that came later for this game. And also, look at this, we still have the map. I mean, hefty map. You had to have these maps, you know?
And that DLC, by the way, that came in the form of the Game of the Year edition, so we have those as well. But obviously, this is the original release on the 360.
Yep. Nope. These were, you know, obviously fantastic games that, I mean, can't be missed, you know. And this one also got a recent remake. So it shows the love that people really do show for Oblivion.
And I can at least say that I have played a good amount of this game. And I did like it, but like you said, having played Skyrim a little bit and then going back to this, like I do this a lot where I start in the wrong direction or I go in the wrong direction. But yeah, there's no denying that even back then, I remember as I was about to stop playing video games for a little bit, then my buddy was like, you got to play Oblivion. And I was like, yeah, you know, looks cool, but I just wasn't really into it at the time. And, you know, I do regret it now because I'm sure I would be way more nostalgic about Elder Scrolls if I had done that. And same thing if I had played Morrowind on OG Xbox as well.
Yeah, I played Morrowind pretty much day one as well as Oblivion. And yeah, just they hold a special place in your heart when you do that. But I agree, like going back to the older ones after you've played the newer ones, yeah, it's pretty tough. So I'm glad they did remake this one so that hopefully more people get to experience the world of Oblivion as well as Skyrim.
And for the last game here, I wasn't actually going to include this one in this episode, but I felt the need to do it because it came out in Japan. So I'm bending the rules a little bit here, but this is our channel and this is our video. So this is what we're doing.
We're going to present to you Loft Planet Extreme Condition.
So this was pushed out in Japan first, but then it came out early, like literally like January 10th or something like that everywhere else, especially in North America. But this is a Capcom game. This is a third-person survival shooter. And people, again, I put this in the same category as kind of like Fear and those types of games. You know, like this is a kind of like a cult classic because this is probably one of the most overlooked Capcom games. And I don't think they've ever gotten like glowing reviews across the board, but gamers seem to like Lost Planet quite a bit. So it's one of those games that again started out as an exclusive on the Xbox 360. And you know, again, I've had conversations with people across, you know, Instagram, TikTok, wherever else we post. And I think a lot of people actually don't know this was a early 360 exclusive because it did come out on the PS3 later on, but it was in the form of Colonies Edition. So that was sort of like a repackaged Lost Planet Extreme Condition with the DLC and everything. So that came out on the PS3 and on the 360 as well. And even on Games for Windows Live as well. Funny enough, they had like this early relationship with Capcom and they released obviously Dead Rising, and then later on that year they had Lost Planet. So yeah, they were really pushing for this and trying to get some steelbooks out there, and it kind of makes sense now. Like I didn't think about this, but I saw this game a lot in Japan on the 360, but naturally we already had this one, so there was no need to pick up the Japanese one. There's no separate exclusive variant or like achievement list or something like that, so I just left that one. But it's it's more or less one of those early ones that a lot of people remember. They talk very fondly about this one, but it just kind of, after the third Lost Planet, we just never saw anything else of this series. And I just sometimes wonder if Capcom, if they actually rebooted this series or remastered it, like curious to see what that would look like today.
For some reason, I feel like we see the steelbook for this game pretty frequently. However, it's always rusty and it drives me crazy. And I remember it was like hard for us to find a really good condition steelbook for this game.
I will tell you, that one, the Devil May Cry 4, rusty as hell. And I don't know why. So Capcom, they didn't do a good job on the steelbooks early on, I guess.
They're not doing actual stainless steel, okay?
And someone did tell me they had that steelbook too from their childhood or something. And they're like, I'm keeping this steelbook. I'm like, yeah, Lost Planet means a lot to people. And that's exactly why I wanted to keep it in here. Although I bent the rules a little bit, but it's here. And Lost Planet is pretty cool.
And if you made it this far into the video, please make sure that you like and subscribe. We always appreciate that a bunch.
And don't forget to check out the first video in this series by clicking on this video right here, because that keeps you on YouTube's platform. And that's what they always tell you to do. So we thank you again for watching, and we will catch you guys in the next one.
Bye.